Okay, so hopefully this will work out a little better than some of the other things. And if not, I think we just have to set the school on fire. Going back to your foldable, there's just a couple of things that I want to go over with you just to make sure that everybody's on the same page and there's no discrepancies. So I know there's some stuff that you haven't seen on there. Obviously, we've talked about the different types of nonfiction and how to read those and the function that structure provides. Do get in the habit of reading things in that structure, because even though you may be able to start at the beginning and read in a linear progression all the way to the end, something about an earthquake, once we start moving into some of this early 16th century, 17th century, and 18th century literature, you're not going to be able to do that. And I don't mean to say that to imply that you're dumb, because I don't think you are. Realistically, it took me a very long time to be able to do that and comprehend what was going on from beginning to end. So use this foldable as kind of your blueprint as how to attack some of these pieces of literature that aren't as accessible to you as we'd like them to be. Now, we're going to talk more about the key words in a later section. So if you don't have anything there, don't freak out. We'll just leave that blank for now and we'll come back to it. What I do want to talk to you about is what's on the back of that foldable. So here we go. Are you ready? I'm ready. So if you're looking at the middle section, you'll see something that I think I've been saying over and over and over again, to the point that you're probably getting kind of tired of hearing about. And it's, what is the significance of blank on the selection? Well, anytime you see those two words together, the selection, the answer choice has got to apply to the whole work. So even though all of those answer choices are going to be discussed within the text, there's only one that's going to be broad enough to cover everything. When you see what is the significance of the selection structure, now we're going back to what we've learned about these different types of nonfiction. You know that they each have a very specific purpose. How does that structure that this guy chose help what he's trying to do? You see that you're going to find the correct answer by identifying what type of nonfiction it is, looking at the answer choices, and finding the answer choice that applies to the whole selection. When you see how does the author connect ideas within the selection, that's where you're just looking at how does he go from one idea to another idea. How do these different things that the writer is talking about go together? Okay, so when you see the question, which words from the selection convey the author's tone or attitude towards the subject, your initial gut reaction is going to be to instantly pick the words that you know that you've seen within the text. But that's completely wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. Because one, all of those words were in the text somewhere. So even though your gut reaction is to be, oh, I remember this word and that word, well, they're all in there. So don't do that, okay? Number two, you're looking for how the author feels towards the subject. And if they're just throwing random words out at you, you really got to do a couple of different things. So the first thing, how does the author feel towards the subject? And in this scenario, you can really just narrow it down to good and bad. It's really all you got to do. So let's say that you find out that the author feels good about whatever he's talking about. The next step is to actually look at those answer choices. And yes, you do need to read every one. Look at the words there. There's always going to be one answer choice where all the words have a positive connotation. That means feeling surrounding them. Then there's going to be an answer choice that's all negative. That correct answer is going to be one of those two. So your third answer choice usually is going to be half and half, and then you're going to have one that's going to make no sense, like volcanic in an answer choice. Somebody can never feel volcanic about something, okay? It doesn't work. So identify your answer choices and pick the correct one. Now let's talk about some of this vocabulary that you're going to see kind of over and over and over. The first one I want to talk about is specific example. Now, you guys know what specific means. It's a pretty precise time, event, location, and it'll deal with one thing, one specific thing. Now, sometimes it's best for writers to start off with a specific example of a particular event or circumstance, while other times, if we're talking about a broader subject that's going to discuss a lot of different things, we might need to talk about it by starting with a general overview. So a general overview is just where you give kind of the background information. We're not talking about one specific thing that happened. It's the difference in saying on March 19th, 1814, there was an earthquake in California, and saying earthquakes are dangerous. They can cause great damage. I'm not talking about one specific earthquake in that scenario. I'm just giving you a general overview about earthquakes. Make sense? So specific example is going to be this big. A general overview is going to be this big. Chronological order. Okay, the root chron, C-H-R-O-N, actually refers to time. So if I have a chronic disease, I'm going to have that disease for my whole lifetime. So when something's in chronological order, it just means it starts at the beginning and tells about an event in the order that it happened. So another way of looking at that is like a timeline. So chronological order, it's like a timeline of events that happen in order. Remember, chron equals time. Chronological order. Expert evidence. So expert evidence is basically where you have somebody that knows a lot about something and you're going to use things that they have discovered or things that they've said to support your argument or your paper. This can be like if you want to legalize marijuana, you need to find a doctor who supports this and can give you medical reasons as to why marijuana should be supported. It can also be, somebody who's very slender and muscular giving you advice on how to be fit. Make sense? Anecdotal evidence is where you start off with some type of personal story. It may not be your story, but it's going to be somebody's story. For example, if you wanted to date somebody that I knew personally, and I had seen how this person had not been so good with relationships in the past, I might pull you aside and just say, I don't think you really want to date him. He's got a little pinch of the crazy. I saw him one time do this thing that you just might want to leave that alone. That's me giving you some type of anecdotal evidence as to why you shouldn't date this person. It's not expert testimony because I'm not pulling in a psychiatrist to give some type of insight into somebody's mental health issues. No, it's just my personal experience that I'm relaying to you to support my claim. Objective summary. An objective summary is when you step back from a text and you're able to just relay the information without any personal attachment. It just means removing yourself from it and giving kind of an overview of a writer's work. It's basically the same thing as a summary. It's just there are going to be some things that you read that you're going to be passionate about, and you're going to have to kind of chop that passion off when you're giving an objective summary. Connotation. Connotation is the last one that you may not know about. So basically all words have some type of connotative meaning, and that just means a cultural attachment that you feel to that word. So for example, you can call me a lady, you can call me a girl, you can call me a woman, you can call me if you're having a bad day, you can call me a female. All of these things we use to discuss women, right? But different ones carry different weight. I would much rather be called a lady than a girl. I would much rather be called a girl than a biatch. And why is that? Because essentially they kind of mean the same thing. And if you're saying no they don't, It's because we as a culture have formed these attachments to these words, hence connotation. Connotation can be positive or it can be negative. If I'm talking about abortion, for instance, I could say she had an abortion, she terminated her pregnancy, or she murdered her baby. All of these are different ways to discuss the same procedure, but they have very different emotional attachments. We think of murder as a bad thing. We think of abortion as just kind of like a medical term for a procedure. So when you begin to start reading some of these kind of detailed nonfiction texts, you're gonna start to see that these editorials are filled with emotionally charged language. So that's about it. Come see me if you have questions. Keep this foldable because it's going to be kind of like your holy book here for a little while. And trust me when I say you need to commit these formulas to memory ASAP. All right.